on that note, let's get to it. We're gonna go around the room for intros. So all you panelists that are muted, get ready to unmute yourselves. As I mentioned, I'm Jen Hurd, the West Coast Sales Manager based in Portland, Oregon, working in coffee for about 21 years and do a whole bunch of stuff, but always happy to chat with anybody about their coffee program. So next up, we're just gonna do this around the room, how you show up on my screen. Next up is Jay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm the East Coast Sales Manager for Genuine Origin. I've been in coffee for 11 years. I am presently enjoying a El Tiple Nariño, and yeah, looking forward to hearing from everybody.
Awesome. Thank you for even repping the coffee this morning. All right, next up would be Sebastian.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sebastian Pinson. I'm been in the coffee industry for the last 18 years and very blessed to be today Carcafe's manager, which is the Colombian origin operation of Bol Cafe. I'm happy to be here sharing all the mysticism and the excitement that brings to build bridges between producers or cherries to beverages. So many thanks.
Thank you. And Roberto.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Hope everyone's doing very well. Sebastian said it's a pleasure for us to share a little bit about what is happening in Colombia with Carcafe, our company, and with our great team in Genuine Origin, Jen, Rob, Jay, and of course, all of the people who are joining us too. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. I always want to make it a point to thank our team for joining us, Roberto, Sebastian. Thank you for taking the time for putting together this info. I know it was a big part of what drew me to Genuine Origin was knowing that there was this international community and work going on that we could really believe in. And also thank you all of you who are joining us today. If you've ever missed any of these, they get posted on our YouTube and SoundCloud, so you can always revisit them. I think that's pretty much it before we dive right into this presentation. So I will push slides when you tell me to.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So we will start our presentation on how we have been impacting the coffee supply chain from the ground up. So please advance.
Maybe. Remember how it was working? Okay, give me 1 second because I'm just gonna pause this on and get right back to it. Okay. See, it did it again. So this is the thing about technology from current slide. Okay, so we're just gonna take that off for a second. My PowerPoint is being difficult. And we're going to try it again and see if I can't pick it up. Sorry, guys. I swear I'm a professional.
No problem.
Okay, let's try that again. And so, how about now? Are we good? Are we functional?
Yes, we're good to go.
Awesome.
So first, to start, and given the times we are living, we want to start with a tribute in memory of one of our colleagues that passed away due to COVID-19. He was one of the team members of our Bogota plant, which is Rodrigo Suancha Choconta. It was tough for all our team to be hit this close from the virus, but we know we will keep going and working hard to preserve his memory.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thanks again, Jen. And well, let's move forward to talk now a little bit about Colombia. General background in terms of the country. We are located in the northern side of South America, around 1.1 million square kilometers. We are the second most biodiverse country on the earth. As you probably know, we share part of Amazonas River. And we are considered the land of diversity. And we will go back to that concept later. In terms of the coastlines, we have a coastline in the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean, which is a very good thing for logistics in terms of connecting to around the world. It makes our life easier if we want to go to Asia or all the Pacific ports, and also to Atlantic ports in Europe or the US. We have 32 states or departments and a population of around 50 million people, which is 77% urban population. And now going back to the concept of land of diversity, and this is the way I'm going to link it to coffee production, is we are located between the 4th degree latitude and the 12th degree latitude. And we are just in the edge of what we call the intertropical confluence zone. So the trade winds of the north and the south get together in Colombia and bring very interesting rain patterns, and therefore different microclimates to all the regions where coffee is produced. So that allows us to have fresh coffee all the year around from different regions, and well, a lot of diversity and complexity in the cup. So the coffee region is located in the Andean mountain range. When the Andean mountain range arrived to Colombia, it's split in three. We have 16 coffee producing regions. Coffee is grown from 900 meters above sea level to 2,300. It's 100% hand pick. Wet milling is usually done at farm level. All the trading from farmer to exporter or to operators is done in parchment, in dry parchment. And well, we're very happy to be present in all this coffee area and in this business in this country. So next slide. Now going down to Carcafe as a company, I would say we are based on three main pillars. The first one is physical infrastructure. So we have 5 dry mills, 14 buying stations that cover all the coffee geography. You can see in the map that we have in the south our Pasto mill and 3 purchasing points. And in the north, we have one purchasing point in Sierra Nevada, which is in Santa Marta. That brings us or allow us to have the benefit of sourcing coffee from all the coffee geography in Colombia. The second pillar, I would say, is our quality team. We have 23 coppers. 14 of them are Q graders, which allow us to understand all the topics around quality and to translate as accurate as possible the will and the needs of our clients, and at the same time transfer that knowledge to our producers. And that brings me to the third pillar, which is our field team, where we have 71 people or commercial technical assistants that work hand to hand with all the producers in the country that we work with. So I leave it there for Roberto, who is the responsible of making that happen.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. So part of my responsibilities besides the trading side is also working with and leading our teams and the sustainability side. So as you some of you may have heard, we have a program worldwide which is called Bocafe Way, which is, as we consider it, a global and holistic approach that aims to a profitable sustainability in coffee. So please go ahead. So as Sebastian was saying, currently one of our backbones in Carcafe is, of course, our team, which is they are from the field, and they cover most of the most important areas in Colombia. So 72 trained agronomists based all along this beautiful coffee Andean regions around the country, some which are actually not in the Andean regions, and we will talk about this too. The team has been growing, and we are focusing, as I said, in sustainability, so social, environmental aspects, and also, as Sebastian said, providing commercial support to our team, to the procurement and guaranteeing a traceable, high quality coffee for you all. We focus in building supply chains, tailor-made supply chains around the country, and we think long term. We believe that this is the way to work with producers, and this supply chain is quite complex, as you may know. It's not small. We are currently impacting roughly 24,000 producers around the country, directly and indirectly. We don't source 100% of the coffee from the producers directly. In some cases, we work with co-ops, associations, and also with operators who are also verified and certified in some cases. So what are the pillars in the field? So productivity, of course, as any other crop. Quality. So it depends on how we see quality. So from the physical point of view, so we call it in Spanish, in some countries, it's rendimiento, or let's say the amount of good coffee beans inside of the dry parchment, which we aim to have the best quality possible, and also cup profile, which is key. Resource efficiency is basically helping the producer to achieve a low cost of production for them to have a better margin or profitability. When we achieve this, which is not easy or fast, we consider a farm to be successful from all standpoints, and that will allow them to have a sustainable business on the long run, which is the secret of this all. Please, Jen. Okay, so producers, as you saw in the map, the first one that Sebastian showed, Colombia is a very diverse country, so all sorts of microclimates, altitudes, latitudes. So since we bet on having a local team in every single region, with engineers, with cuppers, with buyers, with administrative personnel, we have the blessing of having direct contact with all of them. So it's marvelous of how you can see the difference of a farm in Nariño or one in Santa Marta or in Tolima. So these pictures, the idea is to show you a little bit about what we're doing. So part of this is not just buying coffee, it's actually learning a lot from producers. So this is why we consider them key allies. We have a huge responsibility in dealing with this amazing product, which is coffee, and also with these people who have all sorts of stories in different regions of the country. For instance, in the center, you see this kind of aerospace tank. This is actually one invention that was done in Cauca by a group of producers. These guys are going, they're also scientists, you know, they have even a physicist working in the team. So you have them, you have the Eje Cafetero, for instance, on the right of the screen, so which is one of the most traditional areas in coffee areas in Colombia. We have found and have been working with many producers who can not only provide the plain washed coffees, but we are also sourcing all sorts of processed coffees and different for all pallets, right? So we cup every single bag that's being bought, whether if it's in a buying station, a milling station, or in our head office in Bogota. So we just wanted to put some different colors and faces of many producers who make this business possible. Thank you, Jen, please. Okay. So Carcafe is also a Volcafe Way coffee producer. We believe that we have to practice what we preach, right? So currently the company has 2 farms in 2 strategic areas in Colombia. One in Manizales, which is actually in the coffee axis in Caldas, where the coffee that Jen mentioned is coming from, the natural. So this is a medium-sized farm for Colombia. It has 14 hectares in coffee. And the other one is in Nariño, actually, in one of the most important areas called La Unión de Nariño. So what's our goal? We want to not only produce amazing coffees and experiment with different type of processing, washed, naturals, honeys, but also having a showcase that allows us to share this knowledge, full disclosure, with producers, with our team, with other teams, with baristas, with roasters, importers, in order to have this very dynamic live action of what's happening in the coffee field. So by the way, you are all welcome. Hopefully in the future you can get to visit the farms with us, and this is the idea, to participate from the bean all the way up to the drying and the cupping of these coffees. We've been learning a lot. It is not easy. So as we all know, in the midst of a pandemic, no matter where we are or what activity we are participating in, there's all sorts of challenges, right? So in our case, as you can imagine, very big country. Colombia has, as we said, many regions. Some of them are pretty far away from where we have our buying stations. So we have tried to help producers, many of them who have had a hard time to go and transport their coffee to a buying station. So we have, with the huge help of our agronomists, our field team, contacting the producers and going all the way up to the farms and buying the coffee in situ, which has been an amazing experience for all of us, and also protecting our producers in order for them not to be exposed to a pretty dangerous virus. As you know, not only in Colombia and Latin America and the world, the coffee producers in our country most are in above 50 years, so we have to have extra care of them. So this has also been an outstanding challenge for us, and with a huge help, as I said, of our group and the commercial teams as well. So that's a very brief presentation of what we are in Carcafe, and we would really enjoy to have a nice conversation or questions. Please, Sebastian, if you have something to add, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we hop into some more of our discussion, things that I need to remember to mention, there is the Q&A function at the bottom, which someone already found. Awesome. And we try and work those into the conversation or get to them at the end. Sometimes we don't have time for all of the questions. So if there's something you're still curious about, you're welcome to reach out to any of us directly. Jay, Cindy, and myself have our contact info on the website. You can hit Rob up in the DMs on social media, and we will do our best to get that information for you. Also, we're gonna have a couple of polls throughout this. I think Rob's probably gonna put up the first one shortly. So, but let's get into this. And I think a lot about all of the different regions we work with in the different countries, and you know, no one operates the same way. And you mentioned that Colombia harvests throughout the year. There's always fresh coffee. What else differentiates Colombia's coffee production from other countries?
Okay, so yes, it's a huge diversity in terms of varieties, altitudes, processing methods. Historically, the country has and is still known, of course, for its wash coffees, right? It's the main coffee that's being produced and that probably will be produced probably the finest washed coffees on earth, right? So one of the very interesting things, as I said, that we are facing as a team is also to understand a little bit more about how the biochemistry in the bean works, and that we cannot catalog a coffee in one specific quality. If it's, for instance, if we have a coffee that as a washed coffee is not the best, but we can try with a different fermentation protocol or as a natural, and we have seen that this can help. So there's a huge variety of flavors that we have seen, and also the cultures within each region, right? So some regions are more traditional in terms of practices. For instance, in Antioquia, right, or in the coffee axis, they have been producing coffee for decades. So more than 4 generations being involved with coffee. As I said, we learn from them as well. And also coffee regions that are quite new and need more help. So it's a very dynamic picture for all of our team, but I truly believe that it really helps us to have local teams in every single part of the country that helps us have a broader scope of what's happening.
And then how does the FNC play into all of that?
So we have to understand what type of organization FNC is. So FNC is the Guild of Producers of Colombia. And they have been, or they start or was founded in 1927. So we are reaching almost 100 years of that organization. At the beginning, it was created in order to help producers gather the production and export it. But then things have changed over time. So right now, on top of being the guild and being an exporter as Carcafe is in Colombia, they also have like an institutional hat where they manage what it's called the National Coffee Fund. And the National Coffee Fund is the money that every producer has to pay as a tax, and which they decide to create many years ago to fund that fund to receive some technical assistance and some research. So usually you hear about FNC in the fields because of the yellow shirts, which all the producers in Colombia, no matter where they sell, they are entitled to because they already pay for it due to a tax. And you also, or they are also very well known because of Cafe and all the development of varietals for rust resistance and trying to improve picking. So that's the role of FNC in this process. So it's an organization that it's the Guild of Producers, has two hats, an institutional one and an exporter one.
Okay, thank you. Jay, I think you had a question.
Yes, we see that a lot of producers are processing their coffees at their farms. How has this impacted the quality and consistency, and how are you assisting those farmers improving their consistency?
Okay, thank you, Jay. So very good question. In some areas, this is probably not a problem. So as you know, several origins buy cherries in Colombia. This is business, as Sebastian mentioned initially. Most business is done in dry parchment. So yes, there are some risks that are being faced in the farm. For instance, not washing the coffee at the right moment, having the right ripeness. So we have a huge responsibility not only in assisting or co-administrating farms with our teams, with our field team, but also understanding the dynamics of weather, for instance, of how this can affect the drying. So yes, we see some areas that can get more help, but at the same time, it allows you to identify more specific crop profiles because you're buying the coffee directly, right, from each region, which is something that you may sacrifice if you're buying, for instance, coffee cherries from an entire community. So there are some pros and some cons, but this is definitely something that we put lots of effort in, because the very first thing that we have to achieve is having a clean cup, right? After that, there's plenty of more things we have to take care of, but this is the most important part from my perspective.
Thank you.
Cool. I know I always think about that with experimental processes, which I promise for that question in the chat, we're going to get to it. It's like, it's just so scary. But I wanted to touch a little bit more on COVID-19. Again, we know that Carcafe has been personally impacted by this. There's nothing I can say besides I'm so sorry. But I am curious what that has meant for practices and safely supporting producers, and what you've implemented, or what the field teams have implemented to ensure safety.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So we have a protocol with our teams, whether if it's in the office, dry mills, buying stations, but in terms of the field, actually, we couldn't visit producers for several months when this all started back in March. Actually, yeah, March, April. So we were developing not only in Colombia, but with our team, with huge support of the Volcafe Way team, the regional team. And this really helped us understand how to keep the very key aspects of the bio security measures. So yeah, it has affected. We would say that we cannot, for instance, have gatherings. So we really bet on working with model farms and having farmer trainings in order to be more efficient, right? Because you saw the number, and it's not easy to reach so many producers. So that momentarily we cannot do. So we have to focus one-on-one, visiting each farm, keeping the social distancing, using the face mask. And besides that, we also participated with help of our key allies on the other side, with roasters to provide different tools for buying stations to be protected in terms of preventing the virus to be a vector when the producers go to sell the coffee personally. So this has been quite important. And in terms of payment, as you know, in Colombia, same as other countries, there's lots of cash being handled during the peak harvest, right? So we have also put lots of effort in working with our banks, which are also allies, in order to use the different digital tools in order to save time for producers and also protect them from, for instance, going to the bank and staying there in a line, for half an hour, 2 hours, waiting for their money, but using these digital tools, which have been quite helpful as well.
I would add up to what Roberto said. First thing was, we want everyone healthy in our team and in our supply chains, but at the same time, we find creative ways to really keep the blood flowing in the industry and making these communities able to get their payments, their coffee purchased, and in the other side, well, sending it and exporting it so you can roast it and commercialize it. So I think we have been working very hard to keep our health as much as possible intact, and at the same time not affecting as much as possible the economic side of the equation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen our sister operations trying a lot of different things. Like I know in Costa Rica, they did a webinar for farm training. So I'm glad you're finding ways around that and keeping everybody safe and healthy as much as you can. I think, Jay, you said that you wanted to ask about some farm stuff, if you want to hit that.
Yes, Nariño has some of the smallest farms in Colombia. Is there an ideal size for Volcafe Way and Carcafe to work with?
Yeah, Jay, thanks. So yeah, the average farm in Nariño is quite small, sometimes between 1 to 3 hectares. So there's no ideal size. We work with small, medium, and large farms, which is actually uh, the same thing with our end clients, right, or buyers. It does not make a difference for us if it's a very big roaster or someone who roasts 2 kilos per week. So the idea is to provide the same knowledge to any size, right, to any farm size. And as I mentioned, the dynamics in the field are quite interesting because in some cases you might see a farm which is quite small doing very good practices, and at the same time having a medium or large size producer coming in to learn to see what's happening, right? So size can be relative in this case.
Thank you.
I want to talk more because we've gotten a few questions about Volcafe Way and the farms that Carcafe has. So I want to address that a little bit. For one, if you've never visited the Volcafe Way website, you should do that. It goes into far more detail if you want to learn more. We also did one of these webinars for Volcafe Way, so you can find that on our YouTube. It's implemented a little bit differently in all the regions that it's working because, again, coffee is not one size fits all. However, they do all have the same categories for compliance around a social category, environmental practices, business practices, et cetera. But it's taking a little bit longer in some places. It's been really embraced quickly in some places. So definitely go check out the site, go check out the webinar and learn more about that. And also, so someone was asking, you mentioned earlier about Carcafe having a couple of farms and being a Volcafe Way producer. I would love to hear a little bit more about what the future plans are, what you're working on as far as, is it going to be a model? Are they going to be model farms? Is there some processing stuff going on? Are there any certifications going? And I will be very upfront and say, I have very complicated feelings about certification, and I'm always happy to have those conversations offline, but I can't get down that rabbit hole right now. So, yeah.
Okay. So both farms so we use Volcafe Way, first of all, for the social environmental aspect. We use this type of like a core in order for farms, whether they are certified or not, to comply with a minimum for them to eventually, if the farm wants to be certified with any certification, they can do it. So this is very key things in order for them to have a proper management of their coffee, of their water sources, if this applies, etc. So both farms are certified actually, and so we implement Volcafe Way and a couple of certifications as well, and of course very focused in a profitable sustainability with specialties. So for instance, the farm in Nariño it's a relatively small farm, actually an average farm. It's less than 3 hectares. So 100% geisha, very nice coffee. We still have not sent a little bit of this coffee beans to you guys, hopefully very soon. So actually trying some new stuff. The main product, let's say, for this farm has been washed coffees. This year we started during the Nariño crop, trying out with some different naturals and some pretty interesting fermentation protocols to see how this coffee behaves. The farm is at 2,000 meters above sea level, so it's a pretty dry,
Wow.
very cold. So it's not the ideal conditions, but the terroir is quite something. So in Nariño, we work with more than 12,000 farmers. So the idea is to have a model farm, small, very basic in terms of nothing super fancy, something that it's affordable to everyone and can be replicated. So this is in Nariño. And in Manizales, which is in Caldas, as I mentioned, this is a medium-sized farm. So different things happening. You need obviously more hand labor. You have all different types of challenges in this range of farms. but it's the same thing. We want to use them as a showcase. The farms are quite nice. They are located in mountainous regions with very nice views. So if someone feels like picking coffee eventually, please let us know. We'll need some extra hands. So this is the idea, and processing is also part of the DNA. We want to understand how the different varieties and altitudes correlate with the cup. And yeah, we have a very trained team within our company. So the idea is to participate not only in the field, but with the QC team as well. So yeah, basically the idea is to innovate and to share the knowledge.
Cool. Yeah. Well, Rob apparently has changed his mind. He doesn't want to sweep patios anymore. He wants to come pick coffee.
Oh, welcome.
So he volunteered himself.
Yeah.
And then so Rob was doing some math behind the scenes for me, and he said, so does that mean that half the farms you work with are in Nariño? Then based on the breakdown of like the number of producers and
Yeah, we have a very strong hold in Nariño,
Okay.
and we as a company in the history of Carcafe in partnership before with Empresas de Nariño was to develop the coffee producing areas in that state. So that's why we have that stronghold there, and we were very lucky, and I would say that's 37 years ago when all started for us there, that we really get to a place with amazing coffees as a result of the very specific conditions of the soils and climates.
Okay. Jay, I think you are up, my friend.
Hey, you mentioned that in your presentation that Colombia is the second most biodiverse country on Earth. Are there environmental protection regulations around any of this? Do they impact the coffee production? And how are they worked into Volcafe Way?
Okay, so yeah, the environmental regulation is quite strict in Colombia. So our intention with every single farm we work with or impact is that they comply with local regulations. This is the minimum that we expect. And yeah, it's a challenge because it's not very easy, right? For instance, if you want to achieve productivity, you have to really understand how and where this farm is located, the amount of sunlight you have per day, for instance, how many branches you have to produce in order to have X amount of bags per year with a sustained production year by year. So it's not a one size fits all, but in terms of sustainability or respecting the local regulations, that's non-negotiable. So there are several ways of, for instance, playing around with what you have, for instance, with shade. Not necessarily you have to have a forest and a coffee beneath it, but you can, and what we tend to see is producers in many cases prefer to have an area. For instance, if they have a creek, if they have water or a river going by, to protect this part and focus in coffee on a different part of the farm. So our team is trained in order to analyze every situation specifically, but yeah, it's non-negotiable. Environment is first.
Thank you.
Cool. We've had I feel like this piggybacks right onto that. We've had a couple people ask in the chat about heavy rains going on. Are you seeing harvest being impacted by that right now?
What I would say is, yeah, well, we are all aware of what's going on in Central America and the northern side of South America.
Mm-hmm.
So with the hurricanes and all the rains that bring to the country. So as I mentioned before, we have to take into account that usually in Colombia we have a main crop that is in the northern side of the country that is being delayed in terms of the wet milling and the drying because of the excess of rains, but let's say the coffee was there already, so it's not an impact in the volume, it's more an impact in the speed to market. But then the rains also bring some problems to flowering, and therefore for the fly crop we can see an impact in terms of volume. It's early to tell, and it changed from region to region. As I said, the rain patterns in Colombia differ a lot from region to region, and that's why we have coffee all year round. So you have to go to the specificity of each region before having a very misleading conclusion. So I think it's early to say. Right now, what we are seeing is that the regions that have main crop have delayed their processing, right, and impacting their volume.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned for that. I think I want to spend these last few minutes talking about coffee. Surprise. We've spent it's been over 4 years now for Genuine Origin, and we've really been honing our sourcing practices, and I feel like we're being much smarter about the coffees we're bringing in, and part of that has been building our brands, right? So for Colombia, we have the El Tiple, and we've had the Huila, which has been really popular. We just brought in the Nariño because Jay and Cindy and I kept whining about it and saying people want Nariño. We've had some beautiful micro lots. What's next? What should we be excited about? What coffees should we be looking for in the next year?
Okay, so recently, I believe you copped the Tabi, right, from Cundinamarca?
Yeah, from Villalara, yeah. That was
So
such a cool story too.
Yeah, very cool story. Actually, a very good friend of ours from Vermont who fell in love with a Colombian girl, and they started their business in one of the loveliest areas in Cundinamarca, which is actually pretty close, or relatively close to Bogota. And the natural, right, from Juan Felipe.
Yes.
So what's next for the coming months? We will try some more naturals from Juan Felipe.
Yay!
Actually, a new protocol that he's developed. So very interesting coffee that Genuine Origin has already cupped, and a pretty interesting story from a place in Cauca, in the south of Colombia, which is called Insa. One of my personal favorites, fully washed coffees. And there's an important indigenous community in this region we've been working with. So yeah, Insa and naturals for the coming 45, 60 days. And for next year, hopefully all sorts of coffees. So washed, honeys, naturals, anaerobic. So we've been cupping together with your team to see what is the market looking for. But the interesting part is, yeah, we're seeing pretty interesting flavors that are coming up. So I think we'll have a fascinating 2021 in terms of variety.
Well, if those exciting coffee samples ever accidentally make their way to Portland instead of Irvington, New York, okay, I'm not going to complain.
Okay, I'll make sure we have samples.
Yes. I'm always whiny about it because I'm so far away that I miss getting to cup with everybody, and I miss getting to try cool coffees ahead of time. But again, just huge thanks to y'all for taking the time. I know it's always a great learning opportunity for us as a team, but also for everybody we work with or everybody who's just interested.